Welcome to another episode of Behind the Pixel. I'm your host, Joe. Robness has a reputation of being a disruptor and an agitator. Someone who actively goes against the grain just to see what rises to the surface. He embraces it and wears it as a badge of honor. He's been banned from SuperRare, burned to CryptoPunk, and was involved in some of the earliest NFTs ever created in Rare Pepes. In 50 years, people are going to want to know who Rob was as a person. He's already critically acclaimed and famous in his own time, and in 20 years, that aura will only grow. The guy I spoke to does not match the reputation, or the level of success he has already achieved. Despite his notoriety, he remains humble and accessible. He is a genuine person who is about as normal as they come. History is going to look very kindly on everything Rob has done, and the impending discussions about him and whether you agree with him or not is going to be a time him and I both are looking forward to happening.
Yeah, it's definitely full time for me now. It's been the last two to almost 3 years. At first, it was kind of like grinding because I'd make up maybe a couple $100 here and there, every so often during the week, and the next thing you know, all the collectors started rolling into the NFT space, and the prices started getting higher and stuff, and then got to the point where the rest of us were kind of like looking at each other, like the crypto art people. We're like, man, this is doing really well, and then finally turned into a full-fledged deal. And hey, that was easy for me. It's like, screw it. I was already planning on not working for anybody else. I said, screw it, so it was like perfect timing, man.
Yeah. Based on what I know about you, you don't seem like you'd be happy working for literally anyone else, even if it was just one other person that you were friendly with. From what I've gathered, you'd be like, you know what, fuck this shit, man. Even like your best friend in the entire world, you'd get sick of them after like a half hour and just be like, you know what, man?
It didn't work out.
Maybe this isn't working for me. I'm not even sure if we can be friends after this anymore.
Well, it's funny too because I'm a musician as well, so it's like I've been in like tons of bands, and I'm not gonna lie, like I've always been the problem child with the groups, because it's like, okay, for like I'm a guitar player, so like there's some like weird like personality with guitar players. They just have to do everything for some reason. It's like the guitar's not good enough. Like they got to play the bass, or they got to play some of the drums, or they got to, and I turn into the audio engineer, I turn into the, so like all these bands, I would be the guy with the, the 4-track tape recorder recording every jam session we would have, taking the tapes back home, listening to them. And like, I'd get totally anal about it. And, I'm definitely hard to work with the music stuff for sure. Like I have, yeah.
I never consider that. There is some weird like stepchild syndrome with playing the guitar. I used to want to play the guitar, and I got to that point where I was good enough just like from picking it up, but I would have to start practicing to get better. So I was like, you know what, this is now just work and I don't want to do that. But there is something about that mentality where you like feel like the lead singer and you're the focus of it, but you're not getting the same attention as the lead singer. And I'm tone deaf, so I could never sing in any of the, half bands that we started as teenagers,
That is kind of true. Yeah. It's like the guitar player is like the one that doesn't get the total lead, this total spotlight. So it's like they got to like, yeah, it's like the Keith Richards, Mick Jagger kind of deal. Like Keith is always trying to get in there, but everybody knows Keith. But it's like, yeah, I can kind of see that actually. That's a good observation.
Yeah. What kind of music did you guys play, or like, do you play?
Oh yeah, I pretty much listen to everything. But shoot, you name a style, and I've pretty much played it. I've played in like funk style bands. I played in like surf rock. I've played post rock stuff. I can do funk, blues, what you name it. I've just jumped all over the place. But I listen to everything. I can listen to like jazz, to punk, to everything. So pretty much a little bit of everything. Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
Oh shit, you're my age. Okay, yeah. Because like I was, again, when I was, and the only reason I think any of us started playing music at a young age was because girls seem to grab
like this stuff.
Yeah, so like, okay, fine. That was really like my only interest in it, probably, and because I like music. But I think I went the route of wanting to be one of those pretentious like music critics where, you know, you're finding those indie bands. And I always equate it to this space right now because, and you can tell me if this is familiar to you in high school, it was just like always that competition of finding the next cool band that nobody else knew about. And you were like, yeah, like, our band was like Saves the Day and Newfound Glory. And then when MTV2 picked them up, it was like, oh, well, I've been listening to them for like 3 or 4 years. Like, was that similar to what it was for like you?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's funny too, because like during like the garage rock era, you know, like when the Strokes broke out and stuff, I guess, you know, just people were excited about that, you know, just the live element coming back again, just dirty, just grit rock coming back. And shoot, I got to the point where man, I'd be going to Amoeba Music and trying to find the next garage band that was coming out. I'm like, okay, these guys are coming out of Sweden, you know, like, you guys ever heard of this band? They're going to be big. They're going to be freaking huge. And you know, it's weird. Like that resurgence kind of came out and the whole hipster shtick came out. But yeah, I definitely am that, you know, I always try to find the next, you know, secret band, and then, you know, and then go, hey, you know, I know these guys are going to be big, and you know,
yeah, and it's a coin flip it's whether or not they would actually get big, but yeah, and I think that's kind of what drew me into this because, you know, I'm not a trained artist. I went to school for lit, so like I was just like reading, and I've said before, there's enough overlap between us, and maybe that commonality is music, but it's just, you know, stuff that is about being human, and it's humanity. So like, I think that's what kind of like gravitated me towards this, and why I think I have not succeeded, but like I've talked myself into this position where I'm engaging with artists like you, which in a traditional set wouldn't probably happen if you were, you know, someone that was curated by a gallery. Is that something that you have found in this space too?
Oh, totally. I mean, for me, I think the beautiful thing about the space is that, you know, a lot of us that have like developed, you know, names and so forth, and it just came from nothing pretty much, you know. So a lot of this is just super grassroots, but it's just, the only difference is that it's worldwide. It's not like tribalistic where it's like in a certain geographical point, you know, like any type of art movement or any type of music movement or anything that starts, you know, from like Dada or to Motown. It's like usually like an area, you know, and there's people around that area. But in this case, it's like the first real kind of like decentralized group. And we kind of just all popped up in different places. And although most of us haven't, well, I mean, some of us have seen each other in real life, but it almost doesn't matter. It's like it's bigger than that. So for me, it's not that really big of a deal. So all of our ethos is still intact. You know, all of us have the same kind of goal, aesthetically and I guess mission wise. So
yeah, I read because I bought Robness urinal that Max Osiris made a few months ago. I didn't know who you guys were probably 4 months ago because I'm still like relatively new. I've been doing it almost a year, and my friend Mike, who's been a fan of yours for a very long time, he has his own trash art as well. So he was like, no, you got to check this guy out. He's brilliant. And he said, look, you need to buy this piece. It's going to be a historical artifact. And even if it doesn't appreciate in value, I will buy it off of you. So I was like, okay. And I read the story and I was just like fucking blown away by the level of layers to that piece. It was fucking brilliant. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to sell this. And this is going to be worth like millions of dollars someday.
Yeah. Yeah, to Max's credit, he fractalizes most of his art pieces. You know, he's like, you know, he's our, you know, transdimensional artist, man. He's the, you know, the one looking, you know, past the veil kind of. And so him and I kind of became friends because it's like, you know, just mutual. We kind of like get it in that respect. Like I get him, I get why he does his stuff the way he does. He gets why I do my stuff. But I mean, the whole trash art thing came about was because when he got removed from SuperRare. So So when I made that, it was all that stuff was intertwined. But as far as like the layers, it's like, yeah, we've been making a lot of work the last 2 years, and for me, it's I'm not going to make pieces for just for the sake of making them. I have to have some type of energy, like to put forth. So, but for some reason, the last 2 years, I think it was just the fact that everything was happening, and it's like, oh my god, this is like we've got to just and there was something in us that we just kept putting stuff out, and a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff became controversial, but to be honest, it just was natural for us because we're just, if you look back in art history, all the troublemakers usually, that you gotta break the rules. You have to like bend stuff well, not make it interesting, but usually if I see some type of barrier or block, I'm gonna challenge it, and sometimes it's risky. And sometimes I'm like, should I even do this? Am I going to freaking shoot myself in the foot? Like, are people not going to buy my work anymore? And, I go through that shit. And but sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Maybe they'll get this later on down the road. And then those are the choices that we usually make. I'm not talking for Max, but I'm pretty sure he agrees with me on that point. But yeah, like with that urinal, it's like all the the trash, the Duchamp comparisons and Warhol comparisons, all that stuff kind of like came about, which I'm totally honored. Like some people have written and put their names and like, Jesus Christ, like I can only hope to be close to that whatsoever. But all that stuff, basically is in that work that you got. It's like almost like there's the piece and then the rest of the story is kind of intertwined. So
yeah, and I think that is something that, and you can probably speak to this better than I, because we're talking about like just the ideas behind stuff. I think that's something that's missing still with like people chasing the profile picture projects. And I haven't been a huge fan of it. And like, I was kind of over them once Apes came out and I was like, this will never amount to anything. And, obviously I was dead fucking wrong. But so
I think a lot of people will though,
but like there's no soul or philosophy behind that stuff. And that's what I think is missing. So like when I read the article and I read what Max put into it, the thought behind it, I was just like, yeah, this is a no fucking brainer. It's just, this is someone has a physical idea and trying to get it out of their head and put it into a piece. And he did it. And I don't know if you think that, because you said you struggle with that idea of, shit, is someone going to hate this? Is this going to end my career and stuff? Like, it's bizarre to see that other side of it because I'm just seeing it, the finished product of you guys putting something out there. And it's just like, wow, it takes a lot of guts to do that. And you guys just seem unfazed by it. But there's that self-doubt, I guess, still that you guys have that this could be a flop.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, this, like, I'll be the first one to admit the self-doubt constantly. Like, even this month, I've been having like artist block. I don't even know what the heck I'm going to do next. Like, I'm literally like dead in the water. I'm like, okay, what now? What am I going to do? But as far as like making risky pieces, I mean, I'm only going to do it if it means something. But like, I mean, sometimes you can rub like the whales the wrong way or the collectors the wrong way, and it's kind of weird. It's like I think to Max and myself, like to our benefit, we started off hard. We started off really difficult and hard to swallow, and so like the collectors that have like supported us, kind of like they like kind of know who we are already. So they're not going to like get offended by what we're doing. They're like, well, that's just Max and Rob, like this is what they're doing. This is what they do. And so luckily like that's worked out, but we have pissed off some other whales, just by our attitude and stuff. But I mean, I'm the guy where I'm like, I don't care how much money you got. Like, you're not going to come and, DM me and start flexing shit. I'm here to push this new renaissance we got. Like that's a small speck to this whole thing. So I mean, so that's that's a risk, because like, I mean, that's a bridge that's broken, which unfortunately I wish, that wouldn't happen. But for the name of art, man, I mean, that's more important to me. And luckily, I've had the other collectors support me and when I put new stuff out. But it's kind of weird though, because, I think possibly artists are getting a little too reliant on the collectors, like as like singular points of like just focus. I think right now, you got artists on like Hickett Nunk that are releasing, like for example, like I just released a Time magazine piece. I said, screw it, I don't care about the copyright, fuck it. And I put like this Time dead, and I put it out there, and they're selling right now. And I minted like 10,000 editions. I said, screw it, people can buy it for $15 each. Go for it, and they're buying them. So I'm like, cool, they're enjoying it. If I get a DCMA, I'll handle that. But the bottom line is like it's like the way art is getting sold is different now. You can actually sell them like almost like music in a sense. And so I think the gallery is one thing, the gallery aspect, but I think the whole paradigm is shifting where artists can sell like in mass to their fans and stuff. And I think that's changing.
Right. Almost like you said, it's a grassroots movement where it's people like me that have always appreciated art and like it, but obviously I don't have the means to do it whatsoever. So, I was buying that Time piece this morning because, again, my friend Mike said it came out last night, and I noticed you're going to burn some. So I think I bought an odd number on purpose because you said these two pieces go together, but this one does not. So I think I bought an odd number of the red one just so when you do burn it, there's going to be someone out there that doesn't have all three or can only make two. And that, I think, makes it even cooler because you're purposely making the statement that this doesn't belong with these other two, but people are going to buy it anyway. And then there's going to be just this odd one out there that just sits by itself.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's been done before. Like there have been like even on the Rare Pepe stuff. I have this card, and it was like minted like divisible, where there's 10 editions, but like you can buy a 0.01 of it or something. But somebody burned like 0.000001 of it, so literally it cannot be reassembled. Like so that's yeah. So yeah. So there you go. You're like in the lineage now.
I don't think that bodes well for anyone that I am now affecting the art space in this way. Yeah, I should not be.
Well, thanks for getting a couple copies, man. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, like it's the only stuff I can afford. Like, I didn't realize you had a marketplace on there because I've been doing it since like April and just like buying stuff. And then I realized, wait a second, Rob's got stuff on there. So I was like, okay. And I just like went through and bought it because it's still relatively cheap, except for the burn punk. That is, yeah, which when Mike told me about it, it was just like, okay, this has a story behind it. This is something that is genius. And again, risky. I had, when Etta, our mutual connection here, talked about it, she wrote the piece and someone mentioned in the comments, like, well, what does he have to say about, like, he could have sold that and just donated the money to people that need it. And it was someone that was kind of, ballsy about it and said, he needs to be called out for that because that money could have fed, a bunch of people. So I want to know what the mindset behind it was. Like, I have my own thoughts on it, but I would like yours first.
Yeah. Okay. So I do understand that argument, and it's totally valid. Like, I'm not going to say it's wrong. Everybody has an opinion to the art piece, and to be honest, like, that's kind of like the double-edged sword when you make a piece like that. You're going to have people that hate it, or you're going to have people that love it. And I didn't know what was going to happen after. I mean, I was getting goosebumps doing the damn thing. Like, I'm like trying to record this thing, and I'm like, am I really doing this? I'm like, I got to do it now. If I started feeling the butterflies, I'm like, I have to do this. So yeah, that's a totally valid argument. But I will say that, like, I transferred the money to somebody else. The money went to some other person's pocket. I don't know who it went to. So that person was, benefited. I just basically technically just stopped the trail of where the NFT was going to go, or where the value was going to go. So technically it got sent to a place that's just hold, and it's just never going to move up in value anymore. So really the money went somewhere else. It's just, I didn't like burn the cash. It like went to somebody else's pocket. So, I mean, that's my only defense, which is not even really that big of a defense at all. But more so, there was like no other way for me to make a statement about the CryptoPunks culture but to do that, in a sense. Like there was no other way I could see, like no other route I could take that would be as, hard hitting as that. Because for me, I think it strikes the core to exactly what the CryptoPunks culture is, and it's not about the artwork, because I don't hear anybody talking about, oh, what a night, what a beautiful profile picture that one is. Look at the design of this one. I don't hear any of that. Maybe the COVID punk, but other than that, I mean, I don't hear much about the artwork itself. So, but what I do hear is, the prices and the floor and the ceiling and so what's the easiest target? That. So that's pretty much, that's kind of just that route I had to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I get that. It's kind of like not spitting in everyone's face that, like, I don't care about it. It's more that everyone is focusing on the wrong things right now. And I think we're all guilty of it at some point, because we all chase money, and, I would love to do this full time. But
I'm sure you will.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, we're all guilty of wanting to do something that, like, we enjoy, but unfortunately money is still the currency of how you spend your time, and you need it to enjoy freedom, or you have to come to terms with what you're willing to live without. So it's the only thing you can do is say, like, hey, everyone, pay attention. Again, you're not talking about the art of the piece. You're not talking about the cultural renaissance we're all experiencing with CryptoPunk. Some people do understand that, and I think that's why it's so valuable. But some people are just fascinated by the amount of money flowing in and out. And you're right. The only thing you can attack is that lack of focus on why this is important.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, that was primarily the main reason why. And I stated too, I didn't want to actually, I wanted the reason to be, like, there is no reason why. I want the public to decide why I did it. Just to see what would bubble up to the surface. I think for me, I think that'd be a kind of awesome in a sense, because, decentralized nature is kind of like that. The best result comes to the surface. So I think, the best, interpretation of the art piece itself, or the art performance, that comes to the surface, is the reason why I did it. And so there were a couple of things that I wanted to, set forward in the beginning before I even did it. But yeah, I mean, the results I got afterwards, actually, I'm really glad I did it, because just seeing the after effects of it gave me some enlightened things, just, about tagging culture. I've made references that burning is like the new tagging. It's like, you're going up to a structure that has high value, and you're just, like, pissing all over, or just spray painting all over. You're leaving a burn mark on the culture, in a sense. So the couple weeks after I did it, people kept talking about it. But the funny thing is that, the naysayers and the people that were, like, excited about it, they were talking about, but the naysayers were doing more of the work than the people that actually dug it. They're saying, "Oh, I can't believe this fucking idiot fucking burned it. That he must be so fucking broke." I think it was Beanie Max. He said, it was like, "He must be broke," and they're like, "No, he's doing all right. Actually, he's selling pieces on Dick." And he's like, "What?" But, like, but stuff like that. It's like even the naysayers were actually promoting it more than the rest of them. But the fact that it keeps getting brought up every so often, it's like, what's the rarest punk now? Is it the burnt punk, or is it the rest of them? There's that, and the fact that it's always there, the fact that it's technically dead, you still can go view it, which I think is another thing. You bury somebody, you can never see them again. You bury an NFT, you can go see it, and it's there, and it's hanging out. Just a lot of different things. So yeah, in a sense, I'm actually pretty glad I did it.
How do you spend your free time? Like, because this is what kind of fascinates me about when I always talk to artists. Like, my friends and I would go to bars when we could go to bars, before kids, before all of this nightmare.
Bless you, sir.
But like we would go and like we would be up till like 2 a.m. like when we could stay up that late before we got old, drinking and just like talking about like these ideas and such. And you know, we've always gravitated towards like creative things, and some of us have sold out for, you know, careers. You know, I was a teacher before I became a dad, so you know, I even sold out in that sense because it was loosely related to what I wanted to do. But you know, we would stay up and just like talk about all of this stuff, just, you know, these ideas and like what these statements are and what's important in life. Is that what you do too? Or is it different? Because again, also in this space, I've bumped into a lot of introverts as well too, but I don't get the sense that you are as introverted as most people in this space.
Yeah, it's so weird because like I'm totally an introvert, but like I play the extrovert part apparently good. I don't know. People like, you're an introvert. I don't see that at all. Like I hear that all the time actually. But yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly content with working by myself for hours and hours and hours, and then lunch break and hours and hours and hours by myself. No problem. I mean, like even in the music stuff, like I was the guy that would like literally work, you know, by myself at night with two speakers just jammed and neon lights, and that's it, just like a mad scientist, you know. But I appreciate that, anybody that does that, because that's kind of what's required sometimes. You know, you really, that's the only way you can really focus, you know. But I love going out. I mean, obviously now it's a little difficult, but like, I mean, even before that, I mean, I love going out, bars, talking music, talking art. But here's the thing though, is like the art conversations were almost non-existent. Like, and what I'm excited about is like, you know, going to a bar in the future and like people are talking about, you know, X copy or, you know, Coldy or what piece they collected or they might have, you know, got the last week or something like that. Just something weird like that. But art discussion is going to be of the norm, and I can't wait for that, because I mean for me right now, like I have some friends that are finally getting hip because now they know what NFT means. Like they don't know what blockchain means. They don't know what, you know, they barely know Bitcoin, but they sure as hell know what NFT is now. And so that's like the entry gate. It's like right when I say the word NFT, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about that, and this and that. So a discussion can be had. But in the future, I think when more of the art gets disseminated and some names get more prominent, I can't wait to hear those discussions, man. It's gonna be cool. Like,
yeah, no, and I think it goes back to like what you said about this being a new renaissance, and I don't know that people see that yet. The change that is happening, because this is essentially the 1950s again, and you know, art is having a heyday, and I hope that the next phase is writing comes back to having that discussion. That's my hope, because that was my dream in high school, becoming a writer and being renowned for that. So, I mean, I hope that vision is right, because, you know, but do you still think it's still early on in the stages? Like, do you feel that way? Because you've been doing this for 2 years or even 5 years, if you want to go back to the Pepe's and stuff. So like, do you still feel like it's early on?
yeah, like as far as being early, it's so funny because people say, "Oh, we're still early," and I made the joke. I'm like, "Yeah, we were saying that like 6 years ago." You know,
Right.
so what part of early are we in? I don't even know, but we still are though. And for me, it's just really the metric is like what we were saying before, is like how easy of a conversation can you have with a bunch of different people, and do they all know the subject? So that's like the mass adoption phase, I guess we want to call it. But right now, yeah, I mean, you look at the OpenSea numbers and how many people are using OpenSea. I mean, obviously the dollar amounts are ridiculous, but as far as like people number, it's not that big. It's not as, you know, and that to me is just an inclination. Like I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when this place, you know, or you know, all the marketplaces grow to like millions and millions and millions of users. That's insane. So. But yeah, we're definitely in a new renaissance for sure, because the appreciation of digital art has completely changed. Now it's getting normalized. You know, like you're getting used to seeing stuff like this. But like, for me, it's just a trip to see what's turned into. You know, it's like, holy crap! It went from slang and dank memes, like with a bunch of people that even to Bitcoin people, we didn't we look like crazy people. Like that was the thing. Like back then, like I was, we would talk. Like I'd have friends that were in Bitcoin, and I'd tell them what I'm doing, and like, wait, you're putting an image on a token? That's stupid. Like, what? Like,
Why would you
have
waste your
fun with
money?
that. Like, yeah. Like, good luck with that. Whole. I mean, you made some money, then run off with it. But I knew there was something special there. But yeah, it's just it's still going to take a little bit.
Yeah, because it still feels like we're playing catch up for the past like 20 to 30 some years, where digital art was completely devalued, which is why I think like the pixel art is kind of still a big thing, and even GIF art, because for 30 years it was just like, oh, that's cool. Okay, let's move on. Like I can save it. Do I have the disk space? No. All right, I'll delete it. Like it was just completely transient. It didn't attach itself to anything, and now we're kind of playing catch up still. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot of catch up because I mean, from the '90s on, there was so much digital art that was made or styles that have morphed in and out. And it's funny too, like for me, before I got into like the gallery phase of crypto, technically, like with SuperRare and Known Origin, I was like busy in the vaporwave communities. I was a big vaporwave head for a good couple of years and making crappy albums and like on the side, and I was totally involved in that art scene. And to me, that was like maybe, well, to me personally, it felt like the first decentralized art movement, because that was the first time I've ever listened to music where the artwork was almost as more important than the actual music was. And that's during that time, like I was kind of getting like jaded by music. I was like, I've listened to everything. I'm bored as fuck, And then vaporwave came along. I was like, holy shit, this is like an art movement disguised as a music genre. And so after that, it just was like full in it. And some of that bled out into some of my work when I got into the gallery phase and stuff. And so, yeah, all these little, web punk, net art, all these little subgenres, still technically haven't really broken through. And I think in the long run, we're gonna see all that stuff too, glitch, all that stuff.
Do you really see this like become like, I flip flop back and forth, and everyone, again, this speaks to the easy phase or the early phase, and the numbers, and it being still like such a small group of people with a lot of money flowing in. Like, do you really see this as being mass adopted? Because I flip flop back and forth where I'm like, yeah, there's no way this can't, because the, uses are, endless for it. But there are still, blue collar people that don't give a shit whatsoever about anything, even if it's you can say everything positive about this piece, all the ideas and stuff, even if it's a beautiful picture, they're just like, I don't give a shit about art. Like they just don't care. Like, and so that's where I'm always like back and forth. And especially here in America, we're still split between these ideas of, progress and moving forward when it's 2021. And I thought we were past all that stuff, but we're still fighting issues from the 1950s and 60s. So it's like, sometimes I'm like, yes, we're finally going to get there. People are going to shape the space with a new like vision and stuff. And then it's like, no, people don't give a shit about art still.
Yeah. I think, well, it's weird because it is definitely a digital world now. Everyone's used to having phones and playing video games and just doing stuff on the internet, all that stuff. So like internet ownership is not really like a real alien concept, So it's like it's a matter of like that person you speak of. It's like what interests them, and would they want to own that digitally? And most of the times, from what I see is once it hits them in a certain way, like the technology flanks and comes at them from a different point, then they're like, oh, okay, I can totally get with this. But yeah, when it comes to like digital art. I think it's just like art collecting is the barrier. Once they're presented with that, they're like, I don't buy art. Screw that shit. It's like, what? I can right click it. But it's like if they got introduced to like maybe collecting a piece here and there and actually experience what it is to like be able to trade art pieces to get through like OpenSea or just through that like gateway per se, then they might have a different opinion. And I think you're kind of seeing that because you're seeing a lot of these famous people now just clawing their way in, and it's like through friend of a friend, they show them what's up, and then they get the experience of what it is to trade digital art. And I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm just saying like the big change is when somebody experiences and they actually do it. It's like you could hate it from the from the outset, but if you actually tried it, you might think otherwise. And so like I compare like the NFT thing to like it's a new industry. It's weird. It's like an industry of industries. It's like it'll hit everything. It's hitting art. It's gonna hit music. It's gonna hit maybe film. I think film might be the last thing that gets affected by it. But like writing, it's gonna hit all that. And it's weird. Like I consider it like I always compare it to like the invention of like the gramophone. Like being able to like take music home. Like at first they were scared of that. Like the music industry, whatever the hell you want to call that. Like the managers of these musicians were scared. Like, wait, they can take music home. They're not going to want to come see them. Like they were scared of that. And so, but because of that, it was a different experience of music. It's a technology, but they were experiencing the same form of art, which is just music, but it was a different way of doing it. And I think this is kind of like almost the same in a sense.
No, that's a good point. I think film is going to come sooner than you think. I think, and this is where I kind of get a little jaded about the NFT space. I saw Coca-Cola sold an NFT like this was like a few months ago. And I don't know what the benefits for owning it were, but I was like, yeah, this is where it's going. And it is copyright protection is how I see it going. It is a way to completely kill the torrent industry because eventually like YouTube will get into the scene and, a big film conglomerate's going to come in and be like, all right, you can buy our movies still same price, like $30, $40. But any like video online that's not one of our NFTs, we'll shut it down right away, just like that. And that's where I get a little not as hopeful as everyone else because I think go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, same. I mean, like that whole trash can deal, the toter itself is like the reason why it's been remixed so many times is because of like I thought initially from the get-go that I take a radical stance on the copyright stuff, but I mean I'm literally grabbing the white paper, the Satoshi white paper. I'm like, all my art's free to remix. I don't care. You can copy it and sell it. I really don't care. Yeah, I mean I see that too. Like Rarible, for instance, Max and I, we were, one of the first like artists to go over there and start minting like crazy on Rarible, and you look at Rarible and how big it's gotten now, it's crazy. But they have companies coming in and making NFTs and stuff, and like I kind of knew it was going to go in that direction a little bit, but for me, it's like my biggest problem is the developers not taking that much care with decentralization as a concept. Like they need to, instead of skirting and like going the easier route and just doing Web3 and a centralized layer on top of a decentralized network. It's like decentralize yourselves, like make that the standard like everybody else does, like in the Bitcoin world, if you were a startup, like your main thing was like, okay, we're going to make sure this is decentralized, period. Like, and there are reasons for that. Like now, like we're having, trouble with, Gary Gensler and all these people, the government's starting to come in, clamp down, Coinbase and all this. And I'm sitting here and like, I told you guys, like, spread, that's why we have decentralization. So there's no central point of failure and you guys can't get hammered for it. That's how we won to begin with. And so all these things are now coming to a head. And for me, it's like, I think now is the time for some new developers to come out and say, look, let's decentralize this whole bitch and let's go, I'm still hopeful. It's just, I just would like to see more of it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. And maybe I should be hopeful, but there's too much money floating around. And I think that is going to be the biggest issue is that someone with even more money is going to come along and say, well, we would like some control over this, and some saying it and just throw their weight around. And, I'm not a crypto enthusiast and believer in, that idea of decentralization like everyone else. I came into this because, I like art, and I saw an entry point and I was like, hey, why don't I check it out? And I saw a way to make money writing. So, I'm not that diehard of whatever that ethos is of everyone. But at the same time, I was explaining NFTs to my brother who is in cryptocurrency. He's in this space. He knows everything. He couldn't grasp the point of NFTs. So I was explaining it to him. And then he saw the NBA Top Shot cards. And he was like, oh, that's great. You could like own these things and this moment. And then like if a TV studio uses it or in a highlight reel or something, like you could get royalties from that. And I was like, if anything, like this is what's going to stop those royalties. Like that is a brilliant idea and a perfect use case of what an NFT can do. That's never going to happen. The NBA is never going to relinquish control on that stuff. And that's where I get really jaded when these big companies are coming in, and it's just bringing that corporate control. And I think this is where I, fit in this space with a lot of people, because a lot of people feel that way about corporations, that they're going to come in and start like, I don't know, like Walmart's going to come in at some point, and I'm not going to want to buy any shit from them, but like people are going to do it, and it's going to be disheartening.
Yeah, and I mean, for me too, like OpenSea is such a centralized point where, I mean, everybody goes there. And I mean, to their credit, I mean, they built a great product. I mean, honestly. But also, though, the big problem is that that's the only place where everybody can do this stuff and view their NFTs and stuff. And for me, that's a real big problem, like huge problem. Like I what I want. Well, it's weird because it's like in the beginning, like, to find a web developer in the 90s was difficult because it was new technology. The career path wasn't really set like mainstream, like, and same as now, like, it's hard to find a Solidity developer, to do a Web3, product or whatever. So it's like we have to wait for that to come about. And there are some people working on that now where, it's going to be like, copy paste, contract, and you'll have it on your page and stuff. And that'll democratize a lot more, for artists and stuff. I can have stuff on my own page when I make it and stuff. And literally you connect to my page and you can collect my work and this and that. But my problem is like, where are we going to, what's going to hook up to the IPFS to see it? And for me, let's just say I want to make an illegal rare. Okay. Like let's say I want to make some, let's just say I want to break some rules, whatever, right? That OpenSea is not cool with, and they'll take down, which they have. They haven't taken my work down, but like some other people they have taken down. So, but what about their work? It's like we need to figure out how that can still be seen no matter what. Like, because that's very important to me. I don't like the fact that there's just one governor just saying no, yes. Come on, Taco Bell. Come on, Coca-Cola. Yeah, like fuck all that shit. Like so yeah, all those concepts are like really important to me. But I think more so, it's like we just need more developers to come into the space and really kind of bring back some of the old school. Like, hey man, I really want to keep this free, and this is what really needs to happen. I'm tired of seeing OpenSea like being the complete dominator of this whole thing, and that's that. And to be honest, like I'm friends with some of the OpenSea guys. Like they're super cool, but I mean, even they gotta know how much power they wield. So yeah,
I think they do. Well, I know there was some. I don't even know if it's drama or controversy, because like I'm becoming an old man and I don't even like going on Twitter, unfortunately, but that's where the discussion happens for now, with Nate at OpenSea. Like they know their effect on shifting the weight of money around. Like I don't think they're desensitized to their effect. And I've seen other platforms like Foundation start to restrict one artist that Ed and I both spoke to, Victoria West. Like one of her pieces was taken down because they interpreted it as celebrating violence against women. except she's a woman, very feminist in her views, and it was more about the relationship between us and animals and us eating animals. So like there's these complex decisions being made by tech people that got into the space because the technology was exciting to them. But it's the same thing with Zuckerberg. Now you have to make moral and ethical decisions, and even philosophical questions come into play, especially with art that you don't get into it for, but whether you want it to or not, you're going to have to come to terms with those discussions. Like artists are tend to like lean liberal and progressive in their mindsets on ideas. But this space was kind of created by libertarians who don't want any piece in any of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I do think like we're bringing our cultural wars to decentralization, unfortunately.
Oh, it definitely is. Definitely is here. There's definitely a warring of opinions for sure. I've been in some, arguments and so forth about, just people just, trying to shame other artists because they think they're leaning some political aspect to it, and it's like, no, the guy's from Europe, like he's not even a part of the American political system. Like he's just making commentary, and so there's a lot of these things going on about in the crypto Twitter or what have you, and it's kind of weird. It's like, in OpenSea's case, like I understand what they're doing. It's like moral peer pressure, really. It's like you have a product, you're the head of it, it's centralized, and you literally have the world like just casting the spotlight on you, and it's like, make a call, make a decision. And you know what? Fuck the decision. Like, this is my product. I'm not responsible for these people. Like it's like almost, I mean, honestly, are you responsible for every single action every human takes on the planet? No.
I feel responsibility. It doesn't.
Yeah, but it's like you can't go
pressure. Like,
yeah, but it's like you can't stop everything. It's like the Dr. Manhattan thing, and it's like, and don't get me wrong, I understand. There's like sometimes you have to get involved with some things, but like you can't police every fucking thing. You're gonna kill the future and like freedom of thought and all this stuff. And it's just like the more they get involved with this stuff, like Zuckerberg or any of these guys, the more they get involved with it, the more they're going to fucking ruin the pot and turn everything gray. Everything gray. And you're seeing it. You can see it. Like people are afraid to say the littlest damnedest thing. And
I feel the opposite. I feel like this has emboldened people. And another artist friend of mine and I were talking about this, where it's always that battle of freedom of speech, but also being completely derogatory. Because one of my papers in my master's classes was about hate speech and how we protect that here. And I was making the case that, we probably shouldn't, because there's a very clear path from hate speech to genocide. And so like, I posed this question to him, and he was like, and he's of Jewish descent, and he's very sensitive to all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, but what's the solution? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, no, seriously, what's your solution for it? And I was like, I don't know that I have a solution for it, and that's a big issue.
Yeah, because usually the solution turns into, it's like, I'm not saying it turns into that, but it's like it can turn into that. Like you can become the very thing you actually despised. And I think, and it's like, I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to that. It's like, wait a minute, like you can't fight hate with hate,
mm-hmm.
But the thing is like, you got to look in the mirror and see that. It's like, what energy am I using to dispel this? Am I becoming that? And, so there's all these things, like I'm just, as far as the culture I'm kind of seeing. And, but when it comes to like, big platforms like Twitter or anything, I just think it's just, sometimes they just have to like get stronger backs, man. They got the spines of chickens, man. Like they can just be twisted any which way the society wants them to go. And I don't know. I think they just need to have a harder stance on it and just say, look, like we can't do all this. We can't do all this. Just let people say what they need to say, whatever. If you don't like them, don't follow their account. What, they're not killing you with words. So just don't follow them, and so so all that stuff is I definitely think about it all the time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what are your thoughts on something like 8chan? Because that would be my retort. And to the like bully point of like feeding hate with hate, like a lot of the man, I don't know how we got on this subject from what we were talking about. Oh, man.
Art is controversy and art is expression. So yeah, I mean all that stuff, for sure. Oh, and 8chan is for sure like, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't go there. That's for sure.
I know, but like that's like the argument against all of that. Like, that is unfettered free speech, and that is fucking dangerous. And all the conservative kids that I would have to interact with and try to tiptoe around, even though, I asked them one time, well, what do you guys think I am? And they're like, well, you probably drive a Prius or a vegetarian. And I was like, all right, so like, don't like, now I feel like you're hurting my feelings, but
yeah. Don't throw vegetable oil on me, right? Like, don't, come on, like, yeah. No,
you're clearly out of hemp.
Yeah, like all these stereotypes, like from both sides too. It's just like it's totally absurd.
Their response was like, "Well, like freedom of speech, like the consequences are like sometimes a punch to the face," and that is where I think we're at right now with the verbal punch in the face with the argument. So I don't know. I don't have any solutions to this. Like, I understand the kindness thing, but at the same time, here's an example of freedom of speech going completely wrong. And here is the consequence built in, but it's also feeding it. Like, I don't know. Are we going to fix the world on this podcast? Is that what
we are? Let's do it, man. Like, but it's funny too, because like even in the 90s, remember like, hey, the shoot 'em up games, they were fucking scared of that shit. They were like, all these kids are going to turn into a bunch of shooters. Don't remove these games. We can't have it. Meanwhile, I'm playing Doom, right? And I'm like having a fucking blast. And I'm like looking at this, and I'm young, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, these people are stupid. Like literally, my thought process when I was young playing these games was like, these people are so stupid. They're so old and freaking. The boomer term wasn't around, but I pretty much would say boomer. And so there's like that too. It's like weird. It's like we're older gentlemen, and it's like and it's like we're like doubting the youth, like not being able to like think for themselves and like actually govern like what's good and what's bad. And back then I knew it was good and what's bad, but I went on the internet and I saw some crazy shit, but I didn't go out and do it, and so. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but I'm just saying, like, for me personally, like, I was one of those people that, Tipper Gore didn't like. Like, I was listening to, Antichrist Superstar Marilyn Manson and playing Doom.
You
and
were one of the kids I wasn't allowed to be friends with because I came from a very strict Christian family. So they're like, don't hang out with this Rob kid. Like, you can't be friends with him.
Yeah, you can't be friends with him. Yeah. He's got a computer with those games. Yeah. Yeah. So
you're right. And, yes, we're older gentlemen and maybe we're a little fearful, but were we as like immersed in this stuff as these kids are now? Now it's impossible to get away from it. And I think it was a comedian that made the statement that it was either Bill Barr or Louis C.K. that, before when someone called you, a fat fuck at school, you got to go home and get away from it for a few hours. But like now you go home, someone calls you a fat fuck and you go online and people are talking about you being called a fat fuck. And then it's, friends at other schools hear about it and you can't get away from it. Like, so I don't know if we can use the 90s anymore. Like it might as well be 1960s at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the social concept definitely has changed for sure. The conversation keeps going even when you get back home. Yeah, for sure. That's totally different. Like I can't compare the two in that regard for sure. We would just use a telephone and probably call up our friends and say, well, hey, what did they say? Well, this person was saying shit about you, man. You might have to go to the schoolyard, man. It's like that's the kind of conversations that would take place. But now it's like maybe. Yeah, it's a little bit more like you have a crowd constantly, so I can see that for sure. I definitely think that, there's a couple gurus that say that the biggest war we're going to fight this century is the war of the mind, and I'm starting to believe that now the biggest conflict people are going to have is with themselves and the mirror, pretty much. And I think what you're saying with like the whole social concept, like that we're constantly having this dialogue no matter what, and it's constantly happening. It's like we don't have time to like take a breather and just like clear the data up here and just refresh. And so I think possibly that could be it. And I think they might be right in a sense. And so the mental health thing. I mean, look at that. I mean, that shit's just blowing up like crazy. I mean, the Olympics is having issues with that. Like, we can't even have athletes perform anymore because of mental health. It's like, holy crap! Like they're supposed to be trained to do that. They're supposed to be trained to use their physicality to literally surpass that, and they can't even do it anymore. So, yeah. So I think
I get that now. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe that's now I'm coming around to being hopeful again. And maybe this is why there is becoming a space for like these conversations to happen, and a podcast like this can exist now, because like the conversation then turns me into being the optimist, because now we're seeing art have this revival, and if it is going to be a war of the mind, then people are going to have to start to think again, which I think has been lost. Like we don't push people into philosophy degrees in college anymore, or we don't push them into the arts or English because they're dead. Like what career can you have? And maybe this is a way that could kind of save us in a way, because we would have to have conversations like this.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for me, like even like my Twitter account, like there's constant crazy ass dialogue going on with this shit. But like, but for me, my number one goal, besides like obviously like trying to do what I have to do just artistically and just express myself and just live my life, but like promoting people's work on my page and what I think is just should be displayed, and I'll put it up. I don't care. Like I'm not going to be like one of those people that like, oh, it's just me, it's just about me. It's just me.
I'd like to thank my guests for taking the time to speak with me. And if you liked what you heard, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it. Thanks for listening.